Welcome back, Astro listeners, to Star Lady Soul Reader Network. This is your host, Media Monk, and as usual, I have our shining star of the zodiac on the line. It's Star Lady. Hi, Star Lady.
Hello, Media Monk.
We all remember Star Lady as Kim Marie, the managing director for our Evolutionary Astrology Network. EAN does continue to certify new evolutionary astrologers, yet we also have a lot of interesting things on our website for your continued soul growth. Just go to www.evolutionaryastrology.net. Call us anytime at 1-605-348-5111 for any questions, or perhaps to schedule your New Year's end-of-the-year session with Star Lady. All right, well, a couple of announcements. We are going to pay it forward and do a free Mercury retrograde podcast. Comes up mid-December. We're actually going to do that right on the retrograde day of December 13th. That'll be a Wednesday, 6 to 8 p.m. You're going to get your link to join if you join our Astro newsletter list. So you got to get on that Astro newsletter list. There's a little just enter your name and add an email address on the bottom of any page on our website, and that'll get you current Astro news from EAN, including accessing your free Mercury retrograde unique link to join on Wednesday, December 13th, 6 to 8 p.m. And then a little while later, I guess a couple of weeks later, we're going to feature our new the upcoming 2024 full, complete, comprehensive forecast for a new year. Now that's going to be done with webinar format. Again, we'll be sending out notifications of that. Will be landing in your inbox later this year. So be sure and join us. All right. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Star Lady.
And I don't know if you mentioned, Mini Monk, that we will do our annual forecast this time for 2024 on Wednesday, January 3rd. So you can put Wednesday, January 3rd down. And then I will also be participating in the EA Zoom 2024 forecast, where there will be a series of speakers on various subjects over 2 or 3 days. I'm not quite sure the dates yet, but it's the second week in October. So right around October. I'm doing it. December. That second week in December, 11th, 12th, may go into a third day on the 13th. So you can kind of mark your calendar there. And of course, after the live forecast on EA Zoom, they will be posted on their YouTube page, so you can go have easy access to them there. Oh my gosh, can you believe we are to the end of the year? Can you believe we are almost halfway through this decade? We're definitely a third of the way through the decade. Remember 2020 and COVID? Boy, doesn't that seem like a long time ago? I've just been reflecting on that going, wow. You know, there were time periods we thought we were never going to get through that. Some of us thought we'd never get through Donald Trump's presidency. Others probably may think the same thing of Joe Biden. You know, the one thing that we are guaranteed of is time stops for nobody. And so here we are recording this podcast on the full moon of Gemini, which will be November 27th at 5 degrees, Sun Sag, and Moon in Gemini. We're recording this a few days before that, right after Thanksgiving. If you are here in the United States listening, I hope that you had a beautiful, relaxing, and thankful, grateful Thanksgiving in your world. We even had a skip of snow up here in the northern plains, not as much as they had in our neighboring states of Wyoming and Colorado, but we did get a little white stuff on the ground, and it's still here right now. And yes, Media Monk and I had a nice little get-together with both sides of our family in 2 different time periods, and so grateful for the family we have that loves to get together, and for the most part, pretty smooth and easy in our world with our families. And so again, grateful and appreciative. So this new moon chart, I've always drawn up the new moon, full moon charts and kind of looked at them from that visual circle and gathered impression, I guess you could say, of how I think the planets are aligning in the heavens. And I just have to say, this new moon of Gemini doesn't really have any nice trines in it. You know, we've had a few forecasts recently where while we've had Pluto square the nodes, which it still is within 4 degrees of orb, all those skip steps and decision points for our souls that we've been working on all through 2023, and while we've had various squares and oppositions, many times we've had some nice trines to ease them over. We don't have that. And as a matter of fact, we have Mars and Sun just past their conjunction, which, by the way, took place November 18th at 25.5 Scorpio, once every 2 years, really initiating our dual desire nature, consciously Mars within our soul, Scorpio. Return or separate are the two main desires within our soul. And when Sun-Mars makes that conjunction, it creates a lot of driven energy, and it can also create some of those Scorpio upsets. Well, Sun moved into Sag November 22nd. Mars moved into Sagittarius through January 4th. On November 24th, they're both in early Sag now, but they're making a T-square on this full moon with Saturn direct at 1 degree Pisces. And so that in and of itself, thank goodness, it's in the mutable modality, as we say, Sag, Pisces, Gemini in this case. But there's still oppositions, the full moon, and there's still Mars last quarter square Saturn, which, by the way, is happening the day we are recording this podcast, November 25th. Mars at 1 Sag, Saturn again, freshly direct from its retrograde cycle, 1 Pisces. This is a little harshness that we have going on here. I want to be in control. No, I want to be in control. No, I want to be in control. And as we are, recording this, we are having the first of exchanges on hostages with Israel and Hamas, and can almost be like everybody's holding their breath. Is this really going to happen? At the same time, they're trying to get humanitarian goods and services into the Gaza area as well. So it can be almost like we're all holding our breath. Will it happen? Will it take place? Will there be some upset between Mars and Saturn? Well, the Gemini moon has something going along, and then poof, the next minute it, kind of goes up in our faces. It can be similar to the situation right now where Russia has just unleashed a whole bunch of drone bombings in, I pronounce it Kiev, in Ukraine. And, they haven't had fighting in that city as dramatically as it has been here right now in a while. And so this can be that energy of mutable energy wants to adapt. That mutable energy, and especially coming off of this full moon of Gemini, 1 minute everything's fine, and the next minute everything's went to hell in a handbasket. And with this Moon-Mars opposition on this full moon, November 27th, which will be Monday. I don't know if they plan to have all the hostages things done by then or not. I haven't paid the quickest of attention, but boy, talk about everybody being polarized full moon, being on opposite ends of I've got the truth, no, I've got the truth, I'm right, no, I'm right. And the whole thing, the whole message of the Gemini moon is, can we hold the duality? Can we hold the duality of physical and non-physical? Can we hold the duality of two different thought processes? Can we hold the duality of two different beliefs? Can we hold the duality of two sets of people who have been warring over a tiny piece of the earth? Can we hold the duality if they both have a right to be safe physically in their land? How do we go about creating that two-state, as it has been talked about, the two states between Palestine and Israel? It's sure brought it into focus right now, wherever you're at. I mean, I'm always not a very good person at war. I'm a real big underdog person, and I really think that both peoples need to have the right to be safe and exist. But it's just an example of how this is going on. And when we have Mars right now halfway in between the sun and moon on this full moon, freshly directed at 1 degree Pisces, we can really get caught up perhaps in some of our distortions of my beliefs are the only beliefs. And it's asking us to really step back and hold the biggest understanding we can of truth, the biggest understanding that every single living entity, all species, deserve to breathe, deserve to be safe, deserve to have a peaceful environment in their world. This can be the message of that full moon that we can ask for. You know, we still have Pluto square the nodes. And, you know, we can, again, be creating some extremes of polarity between us and them, you and me, South Node Libra, North Node Aries, and revisiting again that South Node Libra balance with everything. Right after this full moon, we're going to have Venus, the last of the inner planets, coming off its own retrograde cycle earlier this summer. Venus is going to conjunct the south node of the moon at the end of the month here, around 24 degrees Libra. And it's going to make its last quarter square to Pluto then early December 3rd at 28.5 degrees Libra Capricorn. And what's interesting, in addition to the Venus square, last quarter square in consciousness, do we balance things out, or do we have the last of that Capricorn power over, power under, I get to be in charge? In addition to all of that, we have that South Node and Venus conjunction is the apex of what astrology calls a yacht. And that's where two planets are 60 degrees apart. And then across the circle, halfway between both of them, making two in conjuncts, 150-degree aspects, is the South Node in Venus. Now, the sextile is Neptune slowing down to turn stationary direct on December 6th at about 25 degrees Pisces. It's finishing up a 5-month retrograde cycle. It started the end of June at about 28 Pisces. So here's Neptune making, let me get this little detail for you. I'm pretty sure, I'm thinking there is one more, we got one more Neptune retrograde cycle completely in Pisces next year in 2024. But here's Neptune slowing down, turning stationary direct at 25 Pisces itself, and Uranus retrograde at 20.5 degrees Taurus is making that waxing sextile to Neptune. You know, head in the sand, Neptune Pisces, are really searching for the deepest inspirations we can find. Show me the broadest level of understanding I can comprehend, especially with Neptune turning stationary direct. Uranus with that waxing sextile is going, well, and here's how we survive, and here's what's important to me with my values and everything that I need around me to feel secure, to feel safe. How well is Uranus retrograde inward? Retrogrades turn us inward. How well is it reaching for that inner security regardless of our outer world? So they're having this, what we call waxing sextile, or somewhat pleasant conversation together, versus the South Node Venus in Libra making uncomfortable aspects to each of them. We won't get into those details. They're both waxing and waning in conjuncts, which means inner crises and outer crises, okay? Going, and where's the fairness? Where's the balance? And, of course, the North Node in Aries is a semi-sextile between Neptune and Uranus, and it's battling, what about me, what about me, what about me? So breaking it down there, putting it back together, we can be drawing some of those South Node in Libra lines in the sand. I will not agree to disagree. I will not compromise. Interesting that here we have this pause in fighting with Israel and Hamas to exchange prisoners, hostages, to exchange goods and services, to try and find a little bit of peace and balance. And again, it's one of those aspects along with this full moon where you can go, all right, everybody, hold the peace, pray for peace, because something could Uranian disrupt the landscape in the blink of a moment. Something Pluto square the nodes, squaring both of the nodes, and Venus last quarter squares to Pluto could disrupt the powers moving for peace in a moment's notice. So, personalizing this for a little bit for you, as we move through this full moon Monday, November 27th, Mercury's going to make a last quarter square to Neptune, slowing down retrograde in Pisces. That will be November 27th, Mercury 26 Sag, and Neptune retrograde at 25 degrees, Neptune Sagittarius, Mercury Sagittarius, Neptune Pisces, 25 degrees each. Again, those last quarter squares, especially with Mercury Neptune, are going to be about clarifying communications. And Mercury has just went into its pre-shadow. We have a Mercury retrograde coming up December 13th through January 1st. Mercury's going to go retrograde at 8 degrees Capricorn, all the way back to 22 degrees Sag. And this is going to be a very active Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde is going to make aspects to 7 planets, and I'm not even including the sun. 7 planets in this retrograde cycle. And so for those of us who live in the United States, coming off of Thanksgiving, maybe you did not have the most pleasant of Thanksgiving table conversations. Maybe politics reared their ugly head. Maybe the wars taking place reared their ugly heads. If you didn't have the best of conversations, luckily for us, both sides of our family, well, we had decided this a long time ago, but we just steer clear of politics when we have our family get-togethers. It's the South Node Libra, agree to disagree, and let's just leave the subject alone. How are the kids in college? Is the baby walking yet? Let's just stick with those subjects. If you didn't get that opportunity, This Mercury last quarter square to Neptune, the other square that's going to be going on this full moon. Perhaps there's a chance for a second conversation. Perhaps there's a chance for some deep reflections, because last quarter squares are crises in consciousness. And Mercury's in Sag, searching for truth, searching for what to believe and how to make sense of the world. Now, Mercury's going to go retrograde, and if I'm not mistaken, it's going to have, I'm looking to see if it's going to have 3 of those, 3 waning squares to Neptune. So you're going to have plenty of time for reflection here over the month of December. And you're going to have opportunities with the end-of-year holidays coming up to perhaps revisit communications that, if they weren't butt-edited, didn't go very well. We have chances to make amends. We're going to have 4 planets changing directions in the month of December. Neptune direct December 6th to 25 degrees Pisces, really moving us forward with our deepest levels of awareness in the search for value and meaning in life. Mercury retrograde December 13th at 8.5 degrees Capricorn. We get to review all of those self-responsibility issues, all of the powers that be issues that we have. Later on, the end of the month, over Christmas and New Year's, we'll have Chiron direct the day after Christmas. We'll have Jupiter direct the day before Christmas Eve. We'll look at those in our next podcast. But, Mercury is in Sagittarius November 10th through December 1st. Do your best. Show me the truth. Show me the truth. How do I have honest, direct Sag, gentle Piscean conversations with whoever it is that I need to communicate with? And then as Mercury goes into Capricorn, December 1st to December 23rd, and again, turning retrograde halfway on the 13th, how do I slow down communications into a very practical basis? We're heading into that Capricorn polarity Cancer season. The solstice is going to be coming up here soon. Shortest day of the year. I can't wait for the return of the sun where I live. But how does Mercury in Capricorn say, okay, what is of essence to speak about? How do I tone it down? Sag can get pretty excited when Neptune transits through, and I'm going to have the last word. I'm going to have the loudest word. And then Mercury in Capricorn really could, done language here. Mercury in Capricorn could be the opportunity to say, what is important and how is it important? And then how do I communicate it in the most essential of ways? And because Mercury's going to go retrograde in Capricorn, and it's going to make aspects to all of the outer planets except Chiron, how can we, speak to what's of most value to us in this material physical world? It's been a while since we've had a Mercury retrograde over the holidays. It does tend to disrupt travel. It can easily disrupt communications with family. So here's a heads up to try your best to be on your best behavior and do your best to think well of someone else. You know, we don't have anybody perfect on the planet here. We're all trying our best. I have a sister who is going to have her first Christmas without her husband after 37 years of marriage. It's going to create a lot of sensitivity for us. And so family members have already been speaking. You know, this sister gets to decide how we get together, when we get together, if we get together. And because she has 29-degree Libra rising, I think, it's always last minute before we make the plans. And so we've all been discussing we're just going to be as flexible as possible through this Mercury retrograde. And that might be a little bit of what you may want to consider in your own world. Maybe it won't be with family, Capricorn, Cancer polarity. Maybe it's going to be around work and you want time off, but everything's busy. Maybe it's going to be around resources. Maybe it's going to be around who knows what, with Mercury aspecting 7 planets. The point is, mercurial flexibility will serve you well throughout the month of December. And you can even carry it over into January if you want. Venus, before we finish up, is going to go into Scorpio. December 4th through December 29th. So almost the entire month of December, Venus is playing catch-up with the Sun and inner planets. And Venus going into Scorpio can want to disrupt some of that mercurial flexibility. Venus in Scorpio can get a little overly involved around shared resources and who's busting the budget with Christmas presents. Venus in Scorpio may bring up some deep conversations if you're in an intimate relationship. It really is a time period to look at our values if we're in any intimate relationships. How do we communicate around those? Venus in Scorpio may want to have a little bit of power and control. And it needs to reach over to that Taurian polarity of inner self-reliance so we can lessen any game playing or manipulations, especially if you are in situations that create the added energy of all the familial relations that we have going on. Now, Venus will make a nice trine to Saturn in Pisces, December 5th, 1 degree. It's going to oppose Jupiter December 9th at 6.5, Scorpio, Taurus. Those would be the time periods where it might go easy with Saturn. It might be a little disruptive with Jupiter, which, by the way, hope you're watching Jupiter in the nighttime skies. It's just beautiful out there right now. I've got to tell you, for a little while there, I was really looking at it and going, is that one of those super big satellites they're putting out in the skies, which, by the way, will be about my 4 outer planetary workshops, which we will have available for you at the beginning of the year. We're just going to wait till we get past the Mercury retrograde, and then I have a 4-part workshop with Pluto in Aquarius, Neptune Aries, Uranus Gemini, and Chiron Taurus. And I did a little research on all the satellites and all of the light pollution that satellites are going to be creating, not to mention debris pollution that might be out there. And as we go into solar max cycle, perhaps some of the disruptions we might have with our communications over the next couple of years. Stay tuned for the workshops being available. But point is, back to Venus. For those of you who listen to me publish my podcast for a while, I have a lot of Scorpio planets. Healthy Scorpio can really look at what is important. Venus, in merging with another Scorpio. Insecure Venus in Scorpio wants to control, possess, manipulate, power over under games, as I say. And so Venus can be made very aware of these, starting again on this full moon with its conjunction to the South Node and carrying all the way through that month of December. So Mercury retrograde, flexibility. And Venus in Scorpio, take a deep breath to discern what is really important. And then pace yourself a little bit with Mars racing through Sagittarius. All right, everyone, the EA Zoom forecasts are going to be the second week of December. Stay tuned for those. You can find EA Zoom on their YouTube channel. Any comments, Media Monk?
Nope, just appreciate everybody for tuning in 2023 to these Star Lady Soul Reader podcasts. We enjoy producing them for you, and we hope that they enhance and make your life more aware and enjoyable. So thanks for tuning in. Until, I guess, the next new moon.
Wednesday.
Joy.
We're gonna do our Mercury retro. Oh no, we do our Mercury retrograde podcast the day after the new moon. So we'll have our new moon podcast out before Mercury retrograde. We'll give you one more reminder of that. However, I will say, Media Monk, with Neptune turning stationary direct December 6th at 25 degrees Pisces, please, please, please spend your next 2 weeks really visualizing peace on planet Earth for all living beings. Thanks for listening, everyone, as Media Monk says.
Aho, move with joy and passion on this never-ending journey to the core of our souls. Thanks for tuning in.